Hi, folks. We're here with Andy Biggs. He is the current Congress member for Arizona's Congressional District 5. And more importantly, at the moment, he is running for governor of Arizona. Congratulations. Big step.
It is a big step, and but you know what? I think we're prepared for it. I am. My team is prepared, and I think we need to change directions of the state. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
We need a governor who has a little bit of courage and a little bit of willingness to get things done right now, because the one we have, all she ever does is veto good bills.
Yeah, what is it? Almost 600 bills now, or something like that, and everything she vetoed. She vetoed the tax cut bill 3 times before she kind of got forced into signing it.
And now she's taking credit for it.
Absolutely.
It's really insane watching her take credit for all the things she's fought for the last 4 years, routinely take credit for Republican ideas and concepts.
Yeah.
Just nuts. I think a lot of people don't know some of the work you've done in Congress. And I wanted to start out with something. It's the Ashlynne Mike AMBER Alert.
Yeah.
Tell us what that is first.
So, in the rest of the states, all around, every state had an Amber Alert. So if a child went missing, you call in the Amber Alert, and on all the screens and cell phone messages, you would be notified that this child's missing and maybe a clue about that child where they are. Now, you couldn't do that on Indian reservations because they weren't connected to the system.
Really?
Yeah, and so we had a terrible tragedy up on the Navajo reservation where Ashlynne Mike was kidnapped and she was abducted and killed, and they knew about it in time that they could have actually put an Amber Alert out. Maybe that would have changed things. And so we introduced the bill. My counterpart in the Senate, Senator John McCain, introduced it in the Senate, and we passed it. And I'm told, as of 2 years ago, that more than 24 children have been saved by that Amber Alert.
Well, that's the most common sense thing in the world. And I mean, having traveled that area, but also having grown up in a rural area, those things are super effective in a rural community because there's not many roads in and out. You really do have an opportunity to use that bill you put into play to save those kids.
Well, and you've got people that know each other in a more rural community as well. But certainly on the reservation, I mean, first of all, Navajo is the biggest reservation in the country, for sure. But they have their own police units. They have roads, and they have ways to track these children down. So it's been helpful, and I'm really pleased with the success of that bill.
Now, let me ask you a question about that one, because you had it co-sponsored by John McCain in the Senate, and you still got it signed by President Trump.
Yeah,
that's a little bit of a lift. How'd you do that?
Well, first of all, I have a good relationship. I had a good relationship with Senator McCain when he was alive. A good relationship with President Trump, and Trump wasn't going to veto that bill. He didn't mind. He understood very clearly how important it was.
Well, and one thing, maybe people do criticize Senator McCain, but he fought for Arizona.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the point. I mean, if he and I had ever disagreed, we would I would just say I can't probably get there, or something like that. But we mostly we were trying to get things done for the state. And when you're doing that, you can cross some ideological boundaries that might not be there otherwise. But I mean, I thought we worked on that one together. Um, I deferred. We took the Senate bill up and had that signed, but that was fine. It was good.
The outcome is everything, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the point of electing our leadership across this country is to get people who will do things that make life better for the people in our state and our community and our country.
That's right. I mean, remember what Reagan used to say? You can get a lot done if you don't care who gets the credit, and that's really the way it needs to be.
And that's something I think you can really help bring right now to the Capitol, because right now they need someone to bridge some of those gaps. There seems to be very little communication going on between the parties and even factions within the parties.
Well, you know what's kind of weird about this is even when I was the Senate president here in Arizona, for 2 years, Katie Hobbs was the minority leader, and I would invite her into my office every week and say, what are your issues? This is what the schedule looks like it's going to be, and try to really communicate with them. And I think, if you go back and they're honest, even the Democrats will say that I was a pretty good and adequate, transparent communicator with them.
Well, and that was for folks who don't know, because we've had a lot of people who have moved into the state recently. That was a very successful period for Arizona throughout your time in the legislature. Growth was fantastic. Quality of life continued to
Yeah.
improve. I mean, you guys really did great work during those years.
Well, I feel good about what we did. Look, when I first started writing the budgets, we were in one of the worst economic situations that we'd had. And by the time I left, we had a surplus in the budget. Governor Ducey was working hard, and we actually brought in some businesses. We were growing as an economy, and unfortunately, the current governor, we're not very affordable anymore. We've spent some times in the national cellar as far as job growth and wage growth under this governor, and that that's in my mind that's inexcusable. This is a state with tremendous resources, natural resources abound, but you also have great human resources here too, and we can get a lot done.
It's underrated how much growth, particularly salary and wage growth, has stopped since Hobbs took office. It's
Right.
really been a dramatic decline. Now, I'm going to back up something I didn't know about you. I have a connection to the city of Phoenix as well, but you started out there as a prosecutor.
I did. I did. I was prosecuting, and what you do as a prosecutor in the city of Phoenix, you're taking these are misdemeanors, but it is an incredibly busy and robust agency. It is one of the biggest law agencies in the state, and I cannot tell you how many trials you end up doing there. And a significant number of them are DUIs, but also a significant number of them are prosecutions regarding domestic violence because you're prosecuting the violent party, and you, back then we were just initiating victims bill of rights. We were making sure the victims were receiving attention and actually restitution where necessary. So it was a great experience, a great way to start a legal career.
What did you learn about people being a prosecutor?
Well,
That's a tricky question, I know, because obviously you're dealing with some awful situations.
yeah.
But what did that teach you about humanity?
Well, I think I probably went in not totally naive, but I was probably a little green, and you learn that there's some really great people that make mistakes, and you learn that there's some really bad people who commit evil acts, and so you kind of pick up on that. But in the end, the bottom line is, if you don't have the rule of law, you can't have freedom, and you really want to have that rule of law, and that's why the police and the prosecutorial agencies are so important. And it's important that they enforce the law, because when they do, you have more peace, more opportunities for people to excel, and that's what I really learned that from the prosecutor's office. Plus just trying cases and thinking on your feet, because this was like, um, if you've ever seen MASH, the TV show or movie MASH, this is kind of like doing that with prosecutorial work.
Very, very high paced. I
Very,
mean,
very high pace.
has that informed you as you're building legislation, working to develop legislation around obviously criminal acts and so forth, that there is a balance that you have to strike between making sure that the tools are in place to protect people from the bad folks, but also to give the good ones who made a mistake a second chance?
Well, that's right, and so due process is critically important. Everybody's entitled to due process. That's the unique thing about American law, civil law, and so that you make sure that due process is adhered to, and sometimes you have to give mercy sometimes. Other times you have to make sure that the law is fully enforced, because you never forget that one of the purposes of the law is deterrence, both general and specific. So if you let everybody off for doing a certain crime, then it's as if that crime is not a crime. So you have to do that. That creates general deterrence. And then some people, they need some specific deterrence. They need some time out from society to think about and ruminate on their bad decisions and maybe come back.
100%.
Yeah.
And the perfect example of what you were just talking about has been the shoplifting sprees across the
Oh,
country that
golly.
have
Yeah.
have fundamentally changed the experience of people going into a Walgreens or a CVS almost from coast to coast. So
Absolutely. First time I went to a CVS and toothpaste is behind I said, "Hey, what happened here?"
that's absolutely insane. So one of the threads, I mean, running from your days as a prosecutor, the Ashlynne Mike AMBER Alert, which we talked about, is you have fought to protect children.
Yeah.
So you recently passed C-Safe Act. That's the Coercion and Sexual Abuse Free Environment Act. This has been a major focus for you since you were first elected.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think about my first legal job was while I was in law school. Everybody had to get an internship, so I got an internship, and then they hired me post internship to keep working while I was in law school. But what we did is we represented what were then, and I think they still are called dependent children. These are children that put in the foster system, and at the law firm I was at, we represented the most tragic of these cases where children had been severely abused, and that's what we did, and so I've been acutely aware of that ever since, and then and then particularly as the chairman of the subcommittee on crime, uh, I actually have dealt with the human trafficking issue at the national level, and worked with CBP's HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations. And what we do with HSI is they actually assigned an agent to work with me, um, and and we would see how can we improve these laws, anti-trafficking laws. And if you've been down to the border, I was the head of the Border Security Caucus, and I would take members down to the border, and I would literally see children being trafficked in. You knew they were being trafficked in, and we had trouble enforcing that. And under the previous administration, the Biden administration, they lost more than 500,000 uh, unaccompanied children coming in. And under Trump, uh, uh, Tom Holman has made it a priority. They've recovered about 146,000. And so we were trying to always find ways to get laws. And one of the things that I found outrageous is if you would have done DNA testing, we could have solved that significantly. But we were stopped from doing that by folks across the aisle because they don't want it under age 13. They don't want anybody to be DNA tested. And my thought was, seriously, you do have infants coming in, you have toddlers coming in, you have toddlers being released into the country by themselves, and then so there was a lot to do. There was a lot to do.
I think being here in Arizona and aware of the border issues, we maybe have a closer view of it than a lot of people across the country, but I don't think really people understand how serious the trafficking issue, the trafficking of children, sexual trafficking of women and young boys. I mean, this is really a massive thing. And this is where I don't understand about the other side's talking points when it comes to border security and immigration. We're not doing a humanitarian thing by letting that happen.
100% right. I mean, it's inhumane what happens to. I mean, it's inhumane that we lost over 500,000 children. We did, and they were dropping them off. You had, I can give you specific instances that'll curl your hair, but I mean, it's inhumane. What's humane is if you were sending these individuals to the ports of entry, if they had a legitimate asylum or refugee claim, they could make that claim. But when they come in between the ports of entry, which so many of them did under the Biden administration, they lose that claim, and that's the problem. But they're trafficked. They're trafficked, and they will tell you this. We were there. Why are you carrying morning after pills? Well, because
the women are all, I'll
yes,
say it, the women are all going to be raped on that journey multiple times, likely by
horrible,
multiple men.
yeah,
I
horrible
mean,
stuff.
it is brutal
Yeah,
what happens.
yeah.
I Let's move on to something that's
Let's be more.
let's get to the lighter stuff
Yeah,
here,
okay.
because I think there's a lot people don't know about you still.
Yeah.
Um, one of those I've heard. I kind of knew this. I'd heard this, but you play in a band.
You're gonna go there. Okay, yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I do have a band. Um, and we pre-COVID we did a couple of shows a year, one in DC, one here. We did the one in DC was always at Recording Institute of America, and then out here we would play. So, but post COVID, we just play out here. And if I had more time, I'd play more often with the band. But what we do is my kids all have a family band, and so we fold that into this other band, and we play and invite people to come out and have a good show.
What instruments do you play?
I play the keyboards, piano, and then also the guitar.
I am musically incompetent, so I'm jealous. That's absolutely awesome.
Some people who hear me think I'm musically incompetent. I want you to know that. So.
Well, you know what? Old story, but I had a friend back in the 80s who went to a concert, little place in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He came back. He goes, "Oh, I was just there. This band, they were awful. I never want to hear them again." And I was like, "Oh, what's the name? Guns N' Roses." I think he missed on that one.
He missed on that one. He was not a talent scout.
Clearly not. How do you find working together with people in a band translates to public service? Because I imagine there's actually some parallels. You got to be in time and in tune.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. In time and on time and in tune. I mean, so we you have to communicate. Say what can we do? What songs do we want to do? I mean, I want to do all kinds of songs, and they have to have the courage to say, Andy, that's not in your vocal range, you know, that type of thing. And you just it's all about communication. When you're playing up there and you're doing a show, um, there will be mistakes made, and you just have to be communicating enough so everybody keeps going, because you can't stop in the middle and say, oh wait, we really messed that up. You figure it out and keep going. And it's kind of like that with policy making. You have to figure it out. There's a line from an old movie about bands, and the guy says, sometimes that this band can be together for a while, and other times you know that you're done after the hour. Okay,
You better hope that first album's a good one.
exactly.
Right?
And that's the way it is with policy making. Sometimes this is not going to get across the finish line, but maybe it's important that we set the foundation for this year, so that maybe in a couple of years you're going to get through. You have to work hard at it and work and communicate.
People forget the long game a lot of times,
Yeah,
don't they?
they sure do. They sure do.
So, talking about the long game, I think I just saw a statistic: 80% of the people here in Arizona were not born here. I was born in Boston, but you were.
I was born
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
you're one of the rare ones these days.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the stat.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's gotten. I knew a few years ago it was like 65%, but
Yeah.
then we've had a huge influx in the last decade.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons, for the policies you passed when you were in the legislature and worked with Governor Ducey on, we were a great growing state. We attracted a lot of people. So now 80% of the state is
Wow.
was born out of state.
Well, I mean, what I encourage people to do is just get a sense of the history of the state. Get out and see the areas. Go see some of the ghost towns that we have
Yeah.
here around here. That's really awesome. And maybe do a little hiking in the desert and the mountains. But I was born south of the Gila. I was born in Tucson and raised in Tucson.
Well, so when we first moved here, so 1991, we moved to Tucson.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
lived there, for about, I was there for about 4 years before I went off to school, but
Okay.
my family lived there until a couple of years ago. So
Right.
I'm a Tucson guy through and through. I love it,
Yeah.
but it's a little tricky up here with the Sun Devil crowd.
I got a degree from both. I mean, that's really that was unplanned, by the way. It's just that's how the way that worked out.
Well, then you're solid with both constituencies. You're
Well,
doing all right.
Yeah, but half of them are still mad at me for going to the other one later. Anyway, so.
I think that would make 100% of them mad at you, right?
Pretty much.
It's amazing. I really loved Tucson growing up there.
Good time, good place to grow up.
Great town, and it's just kind of been turned by the politics and made a lot more difficult to live in.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, actually.
It is,
Yeah.
and we saw a lot of that coming up. So we talk a lot on this show about the importance of buying a home, not just for economic reasons. One of our prime sponsors we bring on, he's always talking about the importance of getting started early with home ownership.
Yeah.
How did you and your wife, Cindy, build your family in Gilbert?
Well, so I mean, that about the time that I took that job as a prosecutor, we were able to buy a house, and you have to understand when we were buying that house, the prime rate was probably 21, and so
It's enormous at that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so there were some federal programs that like 321 or 21 buy downs where you would have a lower interest rate, and then there would be somewhere down the pike you might have a kind of a
A
balloon,
bump or
yeah,
balloon.
bump
Yeah.
up. And so we bought a house in Gilbert um, for $83,000, 1,206 square feet. We had three kids, and we went in, and uh, that's what I want for my kids. That's what I want for young people to be able to do, because we got on that ladder that you're working, and you're going to get, hopefully, the American dream is you keep building your job in your career, and um, then we were able to move to another house, and it was a little bit bigger, and then we were able to buy another house that was a little bit bigger. I mean, and that's the way you do it, and right now housing is really unaffordable in this state, for especially for young adults that need to get into a home.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of homes out there that are real first time buyer homes
Yeah,
that people can afford at that entry level to start that journey upwards.
right. I did see one the other day, a two-bedroom house, less than 1,000 square feet, and ours was just not much bigger than that, but we had three bedrooms. But they're asking that I think they got 350, $360,000 for it, and that to get to that point takes, make that down payment and get in there, and then you have to, you put up fixtures and stuff, and it's
Yeah,
it's expensive.
you go back 15 years or so, that was $120,000, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And the problem is wages haven't grown triple in that time. If
That's
they
right.
had, you wouldn't worry about it. You'd
Well,
say the
there'd be
market's
other things.
balanced.
There'd be other things for inflation, right? I
Right.
mean, that would have caused inflation, but yeah, that's exactly right. And so my goal, my vision is that we restore the American dream, so these young people can get there and be able to afford a home. Look, one thing that we have to mention with homes, when a younger person, first of all, the average age now for a first-time home buyer, 40, age 40,
It's 40
is
now?
40.
Wow.
And nobody should have to wait till they're 40. We want them to be able to get in those homes. When they get in those homes, they form families. And
Mhm.
when you form families, you become part of the community. You become part, you're very concerned about the policies that impact that family. And so you're involved more. But you help preserve our tradition, our culture, our heritage as America. That's why it's really important that we make that opportunity available.
100%. Absolutely. So right now, it seems like voters, I'll be honest, seem maybe a little tuned out of this election right now. We need
True.
to get them tuned back in because this is a critical election. Obviously, for Arizona, we are the purplest of purple states. We are the bellwether for the rest of the country. What do you tell Republican voters who don't vote? You've got a competitive primary.
Yeah.
What do you tell the Republican voters who don't vote for you in this primary why they need to get behind you and put that energy into November?
Because Katie, I try to remind them, first of all, that even though this is a midterm, this will be a turnout election.
Mhm.
That means your vote really counts, and so you need to get out and vote, get informed, and come out and vote. The second thing is, in your course of getting informed, you need to understand something about Katie Hobbs. She's vetoed almost 600 bills. Now, the number isn't important as much as what has she been vetoing?
Mhm.
Well, if you're concerned about election integrity, she's vetoed more than 70 election integrity bills. If you're concerned about housing, she's vetoed. One of the core issues for housing is to making sure that your water is managed
Mhm.
and works. She's vetoed more than 2 dozen water bills. If you're concerned about social issues, she's vetoed. This is an 80-20 issue. She's vetoed the bill that said no boys in girls' locker rooms, sports, and restrooms. And
I want to stop you on that one for a sec because you've fought to protect kids your whole life.
yeah,
I personally, and I'm not going to speak for you. I personally view allowing boys into girls' sports, biological boys into girls' sports, as abuse. I think you are taking you're taking away so many opportunities from those girls because there's a huge difference, but you're also putting them at physical risk.
That's exactly right. And I've met with some of the young ladies that played volleyball, for instance, and the guy on the other team spikes the
The
ball.
California
Yeah,
guy,
yes.
yeah.
And so I've met with her and talked to her and her family and others, many, and it's a crying shame. The other, so you got the physical issue, and then of course Riley Gaines. I've
Mhm.
talked with Riley, and she's a great friend, and talking to her about, and then some of the others that have experienced that as well. But look, I coached my daughters in fast pitch softball, and uh, I will tell you this: a guy is physiologically very different than a young woman up there, and the young women, some of them throw that ball really hard.
Mhm.
They get tremendous motion and movement, but uh, the upper body strength physiologically um, would add another uh, uh, 5 miles an hour at least. And let me tell you, they're 43 feet away.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's just an amazing thing to be facing someone who's throwing the equivalent of a 105-mile-an-hour fastball.
Oh, I think women's fast pitch softball is one of the most entertaining
It's
sports on
fun,
the planet to
fun.
watch.
Yeah,
It is great. If folks haven't been to ASU or U of A, go out to those games. You're gonna have a blast.
both good teams
Yeah,
traditionally, but a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us what does Arizona look like? If you get elected this year, you're reelected 4 years down the road. What does Arizona look like when you're done? What do you want to leave as your legacy?
So as a legacy, I would like us to be prepared in everything: food security, water security, energy security, economically, a foundation that's built to endure and last. And a lot of people say, well, that's really generic. It has to be generic because we are facing a federal government that cannot sustain this, the fiscal course it's on. So that means that we want to make sure we take care of the water. We've got a lot of water here in Arizona,
Hmm.
but we have to manage it, and we have to take care of that Colorado River issue too. But we have to manage our underground water, make sure we are still recharging,
Hmm.
uh, make sure that you're working on your forest, your land management and resources. Look, just a couple quick things. I mean, if you thin the forest, that minimizes the extent of wildfires, but also what we have found. There's this place called Steep Slope Project in northern Arizona. When they thin the trees, you know what happened?
Hmm.
All of a sudden, the water can get down into the ground and fill up the aquifer, and they had aquifers that they thought were done, and then now they're recharging. They're coming back. So you take care of all of that. I would imagine that with a firm economic base that we're going to put in, with a great tax structure and a regulatory scheme that's not abusive, and a permitting scheme that allows houses to be built. 40% of the house is permitting. uh, it wouldn't surprise me if we're somewhere around 11 million people in 8 to 10 years, and uh, on a very strong fiscal trajectory. So we will be a player economically, not just in the country, but in the world. We'll be a player politically in this nation. And Arizona will be the leader economically and politically, and for freedom and the values of freedom in this nation.
I you brought up the forest management
Yeah,
thing. I remember a few years ago, I forget if it was the rodeo fire or one of the others, but I drove up there shortly after one of our large fires swept through.
yeah.
And one of the most striking things I saw was there was an exact dividing line between the federally managed lands which hadn't been cleared and the tribal lands where they actually had.
Yes.
And the tribal lands didn't burn, and the federal lands were scorched black.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see that sometimes very clearly, and uh, that's a management issue. That's a commitment to resources for that issue, and that'll be incredibly helpful if we do it. But not only that, we have 26 of the critical minerals that you need in the world, supposedly. We have those in the state, and so we can manage that, and in so doing, we'll be a powerhouse.
One of the tricky things in Arizona, I always say across the country, there really aren't many swing states or swing voters left.
Yeah.
There's a lot of independents, but they tend to be either Republicans or Democrats in their voting. Arizona's a bit different. We have a pretty hefty group of independents who
Right.
move back and forth between the parties very quickly, sometimes on the same ballot, they're ticket splitting.
Yeah.
So how do you tell those independents they should trust you to lead this state? What do you tell them?
Well, I think what I've been reaching out and telling them is, uh, first of all, get to know my background, protecting women and children. Let's uh, facilitating economic growth, and what I find is the independent voter wants the same thing you and I want. They want affordability. They want they want safety for them and their family. They want an opportunity for education and job growth, and those things happen, quite frankly, in a market system with a conservative governor like myself. And the other thing I would tell them is, I I bipartisanship is probably not my number one goal, but I managed to get that done. So you mentioned the C-Safe bill that passed out unanimously. It's waiting in the Senate. We just did a bill a couple of weeks ago called the True Act. That's waiting in the Senate. Again, unanimous vote. The bill with regard to court appointed managers or monitors, that was a bipartisan vote. And in other words, you can look at me and say, when we have issues that we agree on, we can deliver on those issues. Let's find the issues that we agree on, and that's critical because nobody agrees with everybody 100% of the time, but we can find the things we agree on and take care of those.
I always tell folks if you hear a politician who agrees with you 100%, you're talking to a liar.
That's that's true. That's true.
I mean, because you were exactly right. We all disagree slightly.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, I find myself even within in my own party where some people would tell you, I think the speaker, who's a good friend, would probably tell you, dang that Biggs, because sometimes he's voting against us. That's because I'm not convinced that what they're doing is the best thing or the right thing. And so you need somebody who will govern that way and say, well, this is what the noise says, but here's some secondary and tertiary impacts that might need to be resolved before we can go forward then.
Yeah, I always say, even with your spouse, you're not going to agree 100%, right? You take the people that you love 100% the most in this world, you're not going to agree with them 100%. And that honesty is good because in politics, it fosters open, honest debate that can lead to outcomes that benefit everybody.
Well, and it changes because I like when you use the word debate, because um, it changes the debate from an ad hominem attack to a debate on, and we may sometimes you're gonna have to say, we're gonna have to agree to disagree, but the bottom line is, if you can debate about it. Look, right now Ro Khanna is getting beat up pretty good, but I've known Ro, and we came together and formed the bipartisan War Powers Act because we had concern on that, and we brought in Ken Buck and from Colorado and some others, and that's the point, is that we found something that we thought was so important that we would come together on and try to take a stand, and we haven't been as successful as we would have liked, but we have in some ways moved the needle.
It's awesome. Last word here. What do you want people to know about you as a person?
Well, as a person,
I know it's a broad question, but I want to. I think sometimes we view our politicians as sort of robots or
yeah,
automatons,
yeah,
and we don't understand that you're still people, no matter
yeah.
what office, it's from the president to the school board. You're still a person with feelings in there.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is, so my wife and I have been married 45 years. We raised 6 children in Gilbert. We have 12 grandchildren, 2 on the way. Um, we're a very close family. We
If you had
like,
never been in politics, that'd be a heck of a legacy.
yeah, and the reality is we have a family band, and our kids. I coached the softball. I mean, I'm a fairly regular guy, and just happened to be uh, into not politics per se, but I like policy. I really like policy, And so I study like crazy and read like crazy. And I think out of the couple hundred op-eds, for instance, that I've written, that have come from my office, I've written all of them except for one. So I write them and I get up early in the morning and do all that type of stuff.
I love that. I love that. Andy Biggs, thank you so
Thanks
much for
having
joining
me.
us today.
Yeah, my
It's a
pleasure.
great conversation.
Yeah, great to be with you. Thank you.
Very much appreciated. Folks, Breaking Battlegrounds, we'll be back soon.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what we are doing here, go leave us a 5-star review. We have Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to be even more in the loop, go check out our social media pages at Breaking Battlegrounds. We have X, Instagram, Substack, Facebook, where we are posting multiple times a day, every day.